where things are at the moment, when we talk about how important it is, you look at the polling and various polls coming out almost on a daily basis showing this remains close, not just nationwide, but in those battleground states, Greg.
Yeah, it certainly does. The latest big poll, the New York Times Siena College poll, has Trump just ahead by 1%, but it has him trailing in a couple of battleground states. Well, margins that close, even in a big reputable poll, just really tell you it's a tie. The polls have a poor record in America in recent years. Trump typically outperforms his polls, partly because people are shy about saying they vote for him, but partly because he gets people to vote who don't normally show up in polls and who don't normally vote. But the Democrats now have an enthusiasm gap in their favour. Kamala Harris has a lot more money than Trump. She will have been coached for tomorrow's debate very carefully. She'll have 6 or 10 zingers. They will have worked out the things that are likely to upset him. I think the rules favour Trump. They're the same rules as last time, which means that Trump can't, come in and interrupt her when she's speaking. I actually think that's good for Trump because it prevents him looking too much a bully. And she herself does give these meandering, oddball kind of answers. So he can't rescue her from her own prolix, non sequiturs.
Interesting point you made about the movement for Trump, that it's essentially it's rusted on his base. It won't be a great improvement or drop in the vote. But when you reference there that she'll be trying to upset him or provoke him, can you elaborate on that? What are the implications of that? Well,
he's a weird fish, Trump. There's no doubt about it. He's a very, very weird fish, and politics has never seen anything quite like him before. He's very smart. Bob Carr coined a brilliant line once. He said he's a genius without talent. He's very, very smart, but he also does some dumb things. So Harris and Waltz early on started calling Trump weird, and this seemed to really discombobulate him. He didn't like that. So the oddest little personal, they call him a fascist and a threat to democracy and so on. That's just water off a duck's back. But any sort of personal stuff gets him agitated. On the other hand, she's got to be very careful not to look as though she is just mirroring Trump's own tactics of personal abuse. But if she can trigger an emotional meltdown from Trump, talking about the past, if she can get him talking about the stolen election and so on, that's damaging for Trump because Trump wins on the issues. Trump wins on illegal immigration, inflation, weak defence, the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Trump wants to tie Harris to Biden and to her own left-wing past. Harris wants to distance herself from that, and she wants to provoke Trump into being unreasonable.
You spoke about Harris's preparation. It would have been incessant, really, every day for weeks. You would imagine they've been running through drills and trying to do mock debates. I would imagine every single day that she's been doing that. I wonder, will this be the catalyst then for her to be more forward-leaning when it comes to the media, or does this non-traditional approach to a campaign where she doesn't do interviews and doesn't expose herself to questions, will that continue?
I think that will continue unless she goes a long way behind. Harris is a pretty mediocre politician. She's never won a vote for the presidency. When she ran in the primaries, she had to drop out before the first primary. She didn't get the support that Elizabeth Warren got, or Bernie Sanders, or Pete Buttigieg, or any of those folks. Biden chose her because he was kind of committed to choosing an ethnic minority woman, and because he wanted a mediocre candidate who no one would ever coalesce around as an alternative to him. She's being handled by an extremely professional machine, very, very good at crafting a campaign and crafting a candidate's image. But I think her approach will be to learn answers by rote and then to come out with key lines. But you have to do that with some subtlety. Even in the CNN interview, which was about as friendly as you could possibly imagine, when she was asked, why did you switch from opposing fracking to supporting fracking, she was asked 2 or 3 times and she just kept uttering the line which she'd been instructed to utter my principles haven't changed. Now, that does look pretty artificial. Trump, on the other hand, often looks quite mad, but you certainly don't think he's just in the grip of his handlers and he's just learnt a few lines. I don't think Harris will change her approach unless she falls a long way behind and has to make desperation changes. She would hope that the Democrats' superior get out the vote, ground campaign and all that will win it for her in the end, as long as she's a dead heat with Trump going into Election Day.
Greg, Sheridan, thanks. Chat to you next week.
Thanks, Kieran.
You can see the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump live tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us for that blockbuster.